away from selling single-use type 1-pound propane cylinders beginning in January 1, 2028. That's right. This bill provides a 5-year delay implementation to provide time for manufacturers, consumers, retailers, and propane cylinder exchange programs to move to refillable containers. As the analysis points out, it's really difficult to tell if a propane cylinder is empty, and they should be taken to a household hazardous waste facility rather than to simply be recycled. So if it's empty, then it's okay to be recycled, but if it's got a little bit of gas in, you got to take it to a household hazardous waste facilities. And these facilities are often not easily acceptable, and that's why most of the cylinders end up in the trash. Even those that are properly disposed of take a significant diversion of financial resources from facilities, which are typically funded by the local governments. And on top of that, they pose serious safety risks to workers at the facility when they're not empty, and they get caught up in the machinery, and there's an explosion and fire. There are safety risks as well to California consumers who are known to try to use these non-refillable single-use containers and try to refill them, which creates even more risk to California consumers. Now, these propane cylinders place a great burden on municipalities, material recovery facilities, and local, state, and national parks, right? There's a long struggle with the impacts of these improperly disposed of single-use 1-pound propane cylinders. And due to the large number of cylinders being left behind, staff report points out, and having to deal with their proposal, the only propane cylinders now available for purchase in Yosemite are the refillable ones. So in closing, SB1256 will transition California away from this type of single-use product that creates litter in our parks and on our beaches, ends up in the landfill, poses a threat to the safety of workers, and are costly for our local communities to collect and properly recycle. With me today is Priscilla Kirus and Doug Cobalt of the California Product Stewardship Council.
Hello, everyone. Good morning or afternoon. Priscilla Kidos on behalf of the California Product Stewardship Council, proud sponsors of SB 1256. I'm also here representing National Stewardship Action Council, Alameda Stop Waste, Western Placer Waste Management Authority, who are all in strong support of this measure. Over the past several months, we have been working with opposition, who have been great on what an extended producer responsibility might look like for these cylinders. However, after many discussions, we were unable to come to an agreement on a quality EPR program that works for California, specifically one that your committee actually passed in this year, which is dealing with batteries. We had several months of discussion, but unfortunately couldn't get to an agreement on core components that really make a California EPR program work. As far as the retail's oppositions, there's nothing in this bill that currently obligates them to take back these 1-pound propane tanks. Additionally, they state that the market is not there, but SB 1256 has a 5-year on-ramp. Additionally, over the last 6 years, CPSC has been working with local governments using CalRecycle on a program called Refill Your Fun, which has been promoting the safety of propane cylinders by choosing refillable instead of disposables. In that short amount of time that program that's taken effect, there are now over 400 locations in the state that currently do at least one of the following: refilling, selling, exchanging these 1-pound propane reusable cylinders. SB 1256 helps consumers transition from the single-use 1-pound propane cylinders to reusable cylinders. As the Senator has stated, these single-use propane cylinders pose a great burden on our municipalities, materials recovery facilities, and local governments, and our national parks. Our solid waste systems are legally obligated to divert and properly handle these disposable tanks when they're detected. The cost of diverting properly and managing and recycling these disposable propane tanks vary from local governments. Some jurisdictions pay as little as $2, some as high as $25 per tank. These cylinders are, when they're not empty, as the Senator has stated, it's very hard to tell if they have a little bit of gas left over. So they must be brought to a household hazardous waste facility. But unfortunately, a majority, around 75%, are usually thrown in the trash. Calculating the cost of transportation and processing these items, local governments using ratepayer funds are likely spend upwards of almost $3 million per year to handle these relatively small waste streams. However, a majority of these disposable propane cylinders end up in the landfills. Banning the sale of these propane cylinders will not only move to consumers to a more sustainable option, but from a waste perspective, this bill actually provides a source reduction. And from a finance perspective, the bill also saves local government, state, and federal government money because there won't be millions in disposable containers entering our waste stream annually. For these reasons, we respectfully ask for your aye vote today.
Chair Rivas and committee members, I'm here more from a technical standpoint in case you have any questions that I can answer, but obviously as the executive director of CPSC, we're in full support of this bill and trying to transition California residents over to a much more environmentally sustainable option than the single-use 1-pound propane cylinders that are on the market today.
Thank you. So we're ready for additional witnesses in support.
Clara Vazex, on behalf of Californians Against Waste, in support.
Michael Daft with Upright and McKaylee on behalf of Republic Services, in support. Thank you.
Abigail Mile on behalf of Rethink Waste, in support. Thank you.
Okay. Any witnesses in opposition?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Mike Robeson here on behalf of Worthington Industries in opposition to the bill. Just one really minor clarifying point is that the term single use. I just want to make sure people know that these 1-pound cylinders aren't necessarily single use. I mean, you can get multiple uses out of them, but they are disposable cylinders, and Worthington manufactures the disposable cylinder that would be subject to the ban in this bill. And oppose the bill because we don't think a ban is the right solution for this product or for any pressurized gas cylinder for that matter. It's true, we've had some conversations with the author and the sponsor over the last few months on what an EPR program could look like. I wouldn't say that we've had substantive conversations. We've had 3 conversations, and Worthington offered up an EPR program modeled on the program that they successfully passed the legislature of Connecticut. They operate in an EPR program in Ontario, Canada, with these pressurized cylinders, and Worthington, as the producer of these cylinders and of many other cylinders, is prepared to be the responsible producer and manage the disposal and end of life of these cylinders in going into the future in California. We would also point out that this is just one product. This is a single product in a line of pressurized gas cylinders that pose disposal problems in the waste stream. This bill's only going to deal with this single product. All the other products have all the same characteristics, have all the safety to the workers, issues in the landfill, and everything that they listed. All those problems exist, all the other products. They only picked this product. They picked this product, I would argue, because there is an alternative to it in a refillable product. That refillable product is made in overseas. It's been on the market since 2013. As the author or as the proponent pointed out, CalRecycle has funded a marketing program for that product since 2015. The analysis points out, they spent $2.5 million marketing the heck out of this product, and they've sold, according to the analysis, they've sold 380,000 of these since 2013. So they've hardly penetrated the marketplace, and so this bill exists to give them what they can't get on their own. It's going to ban the product that consumers want, and by statute, force them to buy a product that they haven't demonstrated that they want to buy. So, we think there are better solutions. We think that the product that you would be voting to replace, that this bill would enhance, is a product that is again manufactured overseas. has a valve that is patented and the intellectual property of that valve that is specific to a 1 pound refillable cylinder. If somebody wanted to get into this business in the next 5 years, and they would most likely have to figure out how to work around that patent and come up with a solution that doesn't infringe on that patent holder. I'm not sure if that's possible or not. I'm not sure if 5 years is enough time to do that. But we would recommend the committee, ask the author or the sponsors to hold the bill here and work on a more sensible solution that would include EPR. And thank you.
Madam Chair, members, I'm Ryan Elaine with the California Retailers Association. We are opposed to SB 1256. We are concerned about requiring the consumer to buy a product for which a consumer has not demonstrated a willingness or desire to purchase on their own, and without evidence presumes a consumer will act in a certain way if they are forced to buy the product. The California Retailers Association represents all segments of the retail industry and includes members that sell the 1 pound disposable propane products subject to this bill. As noted in the analysis, it is a very popular product, and we know consumers enjoy and want the convenience and price of these products. We also know that the refillable product that would be presumably replaced will not meet the consumer demand and future needs for those who use small propane cylinders. In fact, the proponent's own data, as outlined in the analysis, makes this argument. The refillable product has been in the marketplace, as just mentioned, for 9 years, and despite a $2.5 million state-funded marketing campaign, there have only been 380,000 cylinders sold. In addition, the author and sponsor have not represented sufficient evidence that consumers will refill or exchange these cylinders as they do for 20-pound cylinders. They are completely different products and are used by consumers in completely different ways and locations. The analysis attributes a comment to the statewide recycling commission that consumers can be trained to refill and exchange these small cylinders. We only ask trained by whom. Our retailers and their employees should not be placed in a position to train their customers on this issue. Finally, the author and the proponents have presented no evidence that there will be a sufficient network of refilling or exchanging these products. Again, these products are not big barbecue tanks. Will there be retailers willing to assume the risk and safety hazards to employees to fill a small propane cylinder or collect them for exchange? Again, the lack of exchange and refill opportunities will lead to consumer confusion and anger that will be vented out on our retailers and their employees. That will lead to refillable cylinders ending up in the trash, which is counter to the goal of this bill. And on behalf of the California retailers, we urge you to vote no on this measure. Thank you.
Are there any additional witnesses in opposition? Okay, seeing none. Any questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay, Assemblymember Ciarto.
So am I understanding this right? There's only one person or one manufacturer of this, of the what do you call it? The attachment to it?
The disposable?
The filler, yeah, the filler valve that goes onto this?
No, go ahead. There's my technical advisor.
Okay.
Thank you, Assemblymember Ciarto. So no, there are multiple manufacturers. There's 2 currently that have patents on a reusable, refillable 1 pound cylinder. Coleman, which was the original maker of the disposable cylinders, never got a patent on theirs. They sold it to Worthington Industries, the manufacturing facility, but there's no patent on their single use. Where the patent lies is in the placement of the safety relief valve, and this is where the confusion seems to come in, is Flame King, who is the other, there's 2 companies, Flame King and Manchester Tank, where the 2 who make the refillable 1 pound propane cylinders. They also make other sizes, by the way, too. They make multiple sizes, but this is the one that's of question here. Flame King decided to incorporate the safety relief valve, the bleeder valve, which allows you to safely refill a cylinder, in the neck or in the service valve of the cylinder. There is, on the Coleman Worthington single-use cylinder, that safety relief valve is actually installed. It's actually on the top of the cylinder in the main body of the cylinder. It is not in the valve. So that is the patent, is the location of the safety relief valve. It is not on the valve itself. So you could easily put that safety relief valve anywhere else on the cylinder, and it would be outside of the patent, so there is no patent lock here. Manchester Tank, the other one I mentioned, has their safety relief valve in the stem as well, but it's in a different configuration, and so there is no patent infringement there either, even though there's two of them that exist.
Go ahead.
All right, so I want to clarify, on the refillable tank, there is a patent by Manchester. It wasn't a good patent. It wasn't a good design. I don't think it's in the market. My client tells me that the Manchester 1-pound cylinder is actually not in the market because the Manchester 1-pound cylinder and its valve design was ineffective and not safe, and so it's not out there. It's not being used. The Flame King, the YSN import patent is a good patent. It's effective, it works, and it's a strong patent, and it can't be worked around. And so if my client wants my client could spend a lot of money trying to figure out how to work around that patent, but there is one patent in the marketplace.
All right, thank you.
Also, to be clear, there's only one manufacturer that makes the single-use 1-pound propane tank, and that's Worthington. So it's not like there's a zillion people making these 1-pound tanks. And they also, Worthington does make a reusable tank. They have the technology, they have the staff, they have the workforce that they could make a reusable force. This patent problem, the patent expires in 8 years. Right? This bill doesn't start for 5 years. So at the worst scenario, you'd have to pay the patent for 3 years, and then the patent would expire, so it wouldn't go away. But let's not lose the focus that we're trying to reduce waste. We want to reuse it. Connecticut's got a program that the retailers don't have to accept the empty containers. Well, that's a good program if you're a retailer. You sell the product, but you don't want to be part of the EPR program. That's not an EPR program in California. That's if you don't pick them up at the park. So understand that we're trying to reduce waste. We're trying to, we want to reduce the savings to people in the long term. These people are refilling these single-use containers, and it's dangerous. It's not designed. The architecture of the canister is such that it could collapse. We have a responsibility for the safety of it. I know people do it, and people have called our office, but that's not how it was designed. So they want a safe product. We want a climate focused product that's going to reduce the waste and allow people to enjoy their camping experience.
Can I?
Sure, go ahead.
I lost my train of thought. I apologize.
Okay, well, I have a question. Are there any other questions or comments from the committee? I have a question for the author. I know the opposition has testified that they would be willing to work on an EPR program. And I just want to hear from you why you think your bill as is would be better than an EPR program.
Right. Well, we have offered the opposition a California-style EPR program, which would require the retailers to take back every container, because they sell the containers, but they don't. They would have to have a comprehensive collection or program in all our parks, state and regional. It's right. We have offered them language of what it would take, what we would agree to on an EPA program. There's 5 million, 7 million folks. I don't know who goes camping in Connecticut. People come camping in California. We've got these empty containers all over the state. So we heard about this EPR program in the Senate in the first hearing. I have worked numerous times with the opposition and my staff and my sponsors on trying to fashion an EPR program. We just didn't get there. I'm coming back to you, Madam Chair, with another EPR program. I like EPR programs, but they got to be California EPR programs. They're not phony baloney EPR programs. So that's the That's the point. I would take an EPR program if they would accept the program that we laid out and the retailers would accept it. Every store that sells these propane tanks for the safety of Californians and the people that work in our recycling centers, I'd be there in a heartbeat.
So I actually remember it was about EPR. So the EPR program, if I understand it correctly, it is producer, the P is producer responsibility, and Worthington is the producer, and Worthington's prepared to be responsible for the product and manage it and collect it at the place where it's being disposed of, where it's being consumed. Consumers, the people in here who camp and backpack, you're using this product out somewhere. You're not using it at home, and you're not likely to bring it back to a retailer. So we did resist a retailer take-back requirement in our discussions with the author and the sponsor, because that's not going to be effective. What's going to be effective is collecting this product and having the producer be responsible for collecting this product where it's consumed and where it's used, and managing it and taking it out of the waste stream and doing all the right things by a producer responsibility program. Whether it's, you're not going to model this on batteries, because these aren't batteries. These are camping cylinders used elsewhere. Anyway, that was my point. Thank you.
Chair Rivas, if I may, I'd like to get a little clarification on this as one of the resident EPR experts in the room. The EPR program in Canada actually has more of a component for producer responsibility if you are a producer in Canada. So if you're a resident business in Canada, you actually then have to take ownership of the end of life of your products. If you are not, if you're a business in Canada, then you have to take a responsibility for that. So both Worthington and Coleman were recently exempted from the program in Canada, so it doesn't even really apply here. And then the businesses have the ability to charge a visible fee at point of sale if they want to recover their costs. So it is not even a true EPR program. That is actually a product stewardship program where we as the consumers would pay for that program. Now, in Connecticut, because that model was brought up here, Connecticut ensures free disposal of 1 pound propane cylinders for the consumer. That is the only free disclosure in that bill. When pressed, when Worthington staff were pressed in a webinar about what about the local governments, what about the state parks, are they going to receive free service? The response was several times over was the consumer has free disposal. So we here in California want to have true extended producer responsibility, or EPR. We want to see the manufacturers actually taking back their products and absorbing the costs of that, because that's been part of the problem with why the refillables have not built up an infrastructure in California at the rate they should, because when you look at the single-use product, which has no responsibility at the back end, being sold at point of sale for $5.50, but then you look at a refillable product that is more in the line of $12 to $15, depending on if it's got gas in it or not for the initial sale, yes, it's going to be cost ineffective against that single use, because that other product, that single use product, is not absorbing the true cost, the life cycle cost of their product. So that's where we have differed from Worthington in our negotiations on the EPR program, is because we want the manufacturers of all kinds of tanks, not just propane. Worthington proposed to have a whole host of different types of products in there, including isobutane and helium tanks, et cetera. They wanted them all to be part of that program. Well, that's fine. We want to hold all the producers responsible for that, and therefore they need to pay all those costs. And that's where we're talking about a California-style model versus a Connecticut or Canadian-style model, true EPR. And so that was one of our several stumbling blocks in our negotiations with the opposition.
Thank you. Okay, Assemblymember Garcia.
I wasn't going to speak because I'm getting hungry. But I use both single use, and I have the refillable cylinders also, and so I do a couple trips a year. And I will say that sometimes it's convenient, and at some campsites we'll have a place where we could drop off the single use that are not fully empty. That is the biggest problem. We end up with something in their can always. It's rare that I have an empty can at the end of a trip. And we do try to figure out, like, can I use this on another trip, but I usually don't have enough for the next trip and it gets too heavy. So we make all these math assumptions. Sometimes I take them home because, like, maybe I can, and then they're just stuck at my house forever. It's like, how do I get rid of this and recycle this? And so I do think you need to have a model that allows for places like parks, and we're not putting that burden on our parks at the end of the day. But we also need to have a model where we are going back to those retailers or places where, you know, it makes a little more sense to be able to get it back. What that middle ground is, I don't know. I have worked on a number of EPR and stewardship programs out there, and each time we get a little bit better out there, but it's about making it as easy as possible for the consumer at the end of the day. I don't always use my refillable one because it's not always convenient. And it's a little bit challenging out there. And so, like, back to how do we make it more convenient for the consumers on that end also. But I do hope that we can walk away from trying to replicate a model that exists in a different country if we are going to go down that road and try to live within the reality. What we have learned here in California, with each of these programs, they've gotten better and better out there. And I've had the pleasure of working with Mr. Rakowski on that. But if we don't have that agreement to work on something like that, then a ban is another way to also send a market message to both the producers but also to the consumer out there. And so I'm prepared to vote for this bill. If there hasn't been a motion, I'll make the motion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion from Ms. Garcia. Do we have a second? Second from Mayor Suchi. Would you like to close?
Yeah, I would just remind everybody that only helium and isopropane don't blow up. The explosions occur with the propane tanks, and that's the unsafe element in our landfills and in our processing and our waste. And with that, I urge an aye vote.
Thank you. We have a motion from Assemblymember Garcia, second by Assemblymember Marisucci. Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is due pass as amended to Judiciary Committee. Rivas?
Aye.
Rivas, aye. Flora? Berner Horvath? Friedman?
Aye.
Friedman, aye. Garcia? Aye. Garcia, aye. Mathis? McCarty? Marisucci? Marisucci, aye. Sayarto? No. Sayarto, no. Stone? Aye. Stone, aye. Wood? Wood, aye.
The bill has 6 votes, but we'll leave it open for additional members that are not in the
And thank you.
hearing
Good
room.
evening.
Thank you very much.
And if I
Thank
may, Madam Chair, go Warriors.
Excuse me? I
I
didn't,
said go Warriors.
Go Warriors.
I know, I almost said Celtics. Oh, go Celtics.
So,
Celtics.